We're certainly happy to have everybody on. And I want to first thank Chair Joy Davis, Benita Williams, and the rest of the nominating committee who was tasked with putting on this event tonight. So sit back, get your popcorn and get you something to drink, and let's have a spirited debate on the issues around Mother FAMU. We have 4 outstanding candidates who I think will be very entertaining and full of information tonight, which will allow you to make a decision on who should lead the National Alumni Association going forward. Best wishes to all the candidates, and I'll turn it over to Chair Joy Davis. Go Rattlers.
Good evening, Rattler Nation. I am Joy Davies, freshman class of 1990, graduating class of 1994. I'm the president of the Pearls of the Hill chapter and treasurer of the South Pinellas St. Petersburg chapter. And I have served as the nominating committee chairman for this election season. The ground rules for this evening have been reviewed in advance by our candidates. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds for an opening statement that will provide insight into their candidacy. Candidates may choose not to use all of their time. The timekeeper for this evening is Benita Williams. Please wave, Benita. She is the president of the St. Lucie County chapter. She will hold up a sign on her screen when it is 30 seconds and a stop sign when the time is up. After statements have been made, questions for the candidates will be asked. At the end of the question period, candidates will be able to make a brief 1 minute closing statement. Again, candidates may choose not to use all of their time. Before we begin, and this is not has any time limit on it, each candidate will be given the opportunity to introduce themselves so we can learn at least one personal fact. We will begin with candidate Johnson. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, good evening, and thank you for this tremendous opportunity. I'm Curtis Johnson, Jr. I came into Florida University in the fall of 1985. I graduated in 1990 with a bachelor's in business administration. I furthered my career there at Florida University by earning an MBA in marketing. While on that campus, I started my leadership tenure. I was active in the Student Government Association. I was actually Student Senate President. That was a legislative body that supported the Student Government Association under Darrell Parks. I was also president of the Beta Nu chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I was also active in a number of other clubs and organizations on that campus. I am vying tonight to be the 19th president of the National Alumni Association. I'm a life member of the St. Lucie County chapter, where I'm an active member. I've been a part of the bylaws committee. I've been a part of the hospitality committee. I've been a part of the fundraising committee. I have traveled throughout the United States, and wherever my travels have taken me for my professional career, I've always been active in the National Alumni Association. I look forward to sharing my ideas about my platform tonight in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from candidate Pinkert.
So, greetings and humble salutations, Rattler Nation and my fellow runoff candidates. Thank you to the nominating committee for this evening, to each of you for joining. A big thank you for everyone who exercised their right to vote and cast their ballot that got us here. So I am Yolanda Pinkert, a native of Decatur, Georgia, by way of Washington, D.C. and Leesburg, Florida. I'm a third generation graduate of FAMU, part of the incoming class of 1990. graduated in 96. Thank you, Lottie. Like Mr. Johnson, I too served under SGA president both terms, Daryl Parks. Graduated with 96, began working for IBM, still there. Right now, I am the communications operations leader for Latin America and Canada. Countdown to retirement in 5 years. Been a life member since 2002. I live in Conyers, Georgia. My mom and I are life members and part of the Metro Atlanta chapter. Active member of the Stone Mountain Lithonia Alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Longtime board member of the Hank Stewart Youth Foundation. I'm the owner of the now deceased Shih Tzu that had its own social media following, Chronicles of Pepper. I look forward to sharing more of my platform and everyone getting out to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Shaw, we will now, if you can introduce yourself.
Okay, greeting to alumni here tonight. It is my pleasure to be here this evening, and I thank you for tuning in. I am Patricia Shaw. I was born in Quincy, Florida. I attended public schools and went on to be a proud graduate of Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. I've enjoyed a wonderful career as a registered pharmacist for over 30 years, and I currently live in the beautiful city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I attend Mount Hermon African Methodist Episcopal Church, Reverend Trey Green pastor, and serve in the local society, Lay Society. I'm a member of the NAACP and a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. I'm a life member of the FAMUNAA and proud to be the current president of the Broward County chapter with over 200 members, including 75 life members. And yes, we are still growing. I have one son, Toy, a graduate of FAMU School of Engineering, and he's married to Jamie, an SBI graduate and a member of the Marching 100. I have one granddaughter, Truth, who is an upcoming FAMU Rattler. I would just like to thank you for being here, and good evening, Rattlers.
Thank you very much. And now, Candidate Smith.
Hello, Rattlers out there. I'm Mary Smith, and I am a candidate for FAMUNAA president. Just a little bit about me. I'm a native of Quincy, Florida, and I am a graduate of the School of Nursing and continued on at FAU in administration and supervision. I have 2 daughters, both are subscribing life at Florida A&M University National Alumni Association, and one was Miss FAMU 2004-2005. My community affiliation, I'm a member of the Negro Council I'm the member of the National Council of Negro Women, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I'm a member of the National Association of Parliamentarians, and I am also a registered parliamentarian. Church affiliation, I'm a member of New Bethel AME Church in Goose, Florida. I serve on the Steward Board. I also serve as the first vice president of the South District Lay Organization. Nationally, I am presently your 3rd VP. I have been the recording secretary for 1 year. I've been the recording secretary for 6 years. I'm a life member since 2006. And I serve on the Governmental Relations Committee, an active participant. I'm an active participant of the Bylaws Committee, Scholarship Committee, Budget and Financing, and of course, Fundraising. You may have heard a few: SOS, FAMULI Cruise, FAMULI Fan Box, Getaway Giveaway, Amazon Geico, and the Holiday Giving. That's just a few. And I would like to say thank you for coming out to hear what I have to say and the other candidates. And hopefully when you leave, you will make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, to our listening audience, if you were listening very closely, you picked up on some interesting facts. And those interesting facts that I want to point out is between Candidate Shaw and Candidate Smith. I heard that they were both born in Quincy, Florida. I heard that they are legacy graduates. They are sorority sisters. They live in the same county. They have worked together in their local chapter, the Broward County chapter. They have worked together regionally, and they now serve together on the executive board. Why is that? They have another connection, a deep-rooted connection. And the connection is that they are actually biological sisters. Does that have anything to do with their running? No, because this is not nepotism at all. They have been serving together and they will continue to serve together, but they are joined at the hip because they are actually related. Now moving on, everyone will have 90 seconds in their opening to tell us what motivates your interest as a candidate and how your prior experiences have prepared you for the position. We will now begin with candidate Pinkert. You now have the floor.
Thank you very much. And this is, just to be clear, we're on our opening statement.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. So good deal. So since 2016, I have served as your Southern Region Vice President. I started that role with a dozen emails and a bank check. We've since chartered over 7 new chapters and we're working on a new one. We've gotten more organized, we've increased our numbers, we're in alignment with nationals, and we've empowered a lot of new leaders. Because of the success of the region and its members, it allowed me to be awarded the first and third recipient of the Regional VP of the Year, the second Alumnus of the Year, and a 2019 Distinguished Alumni awardee. I wear a lot of hats in the NAA. I humbly ask that you consider me as your next second vice president, where we will continue carrying the torch forward, where we will collaborate with the fundraising committee to secure dollars and scholarships. We'll connect and utilize alumni talents while listening to their concerns and needs. We'll improve relationships with the Office of Alumni Enrollment and Admissions. We'll recruit talent that will advance the overall Alumni Association, and so many more things. But most importantly, going back to my prior, is that the stop? I've done a lot, and the thing of it's prepared me and gotten me to know other people, and I will continue to work and serve because that's the first part of leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Shaw, you now have the floor.
Yes, could you repeat the question, please?
This is a part of your opening statement, but you will have 90 seconds to tell us in your opening statement what motivates your interest as a candidate and how your prior experiences have prepared you for this position.
Okay, thank you, absolutely. Now, I would like to thank you so much, Ms. Davis, for announcing that my sister and I are both from Quincy, and we are both in the NAA. And it's such a pleasure to serve with her as my big sister. As a matter of fact, she was the one that brought me into the NAA, okay? Her love and passion for FAMU as a nursing student, and then I came along 3 years later. It was awesome. So those of you who are out there who are sisters and brothers, I invite you to come in and work together because it takes a family to move us forward. That's how I got started. I got started over 15 years ago in the chapter with my sister. She was the president and I was her publicity director. So we worked the FAMU Rattlers, we recruited, and now Broward is one of the largest counties who give students to FAMU. And I thought that would be a great opportunity for me to bring our leadership to the NAA to make sure that FAMU legacy continues. And with that said, I thank you and good evening.
Candidate Smith, you now have the floor.
Thank you again for these questions. Ever since I attended Florida A&M University, the first day I set foot on campus, I fell in love with it. And now that I've graduated from the university, I've never graduated from the lessons of service that FAMU has taught me through the years. I have served at Florida A&M University National Alumni Association in many capacities and in the local chapter in many capacities, from the president and treasurer, fundraising, hospitality in both the national and the local chapter. I felt this role in those areas prepared me for what I will need because I've experienced almost everything in those roles at each level. I want to assist, the reason I'm doing this, I want to assist a motivated team of individuals, educated individuals, to advance and advocate for Florida A&M University. I feel that I'm the best person for the job because of my transparency, my integrity, my honesty, my humility, and most of all, my experience that I mentioned earlier. And let me not forget leadership. I have been prepared in the leadership roles under 4 presidents. I have noticed what they've been doing, the situations that we encounter, and how to handle those situations. I've learned on them, grown, assisted with solving the problems, and I am ready to be the next National Alumni Association president. Thank you.
Thank you. And to bring up the rear, our male candidate Johnson. You now have the floor.
Well, I didn't need much motivation to get started. When I graduated in 1992, I moved back to Fort Pierce, Florida, where I currently reside. I was active in the Alumni Association from day one. As I grew my career and moved across the United States for different career opportunities, I always sought Rattlers. I got my life membership in 2009. It was my leadership that started at Florida University that started me on this pathway, but it was Colonel Gregory Clark that reached out to me, that recognized that I had a certain set of skills and talents that he needed on his executive board. He appointed me as the Sergeant at Arms at that particular point, a voting role on the National Alumni Association board, which I've served diligently for the past 2.5 years. While there, I also served on the Bylaws Committee. I was also part of Technology and Media Committee. President Clark assigned me to a Special Housing Committee to pursue and look at avenues of acquiring an alumni house. And I've been active on a number of boards outside of the National Alumni Association. I'm currently an elected official in the city of Fort Pierce. I understand servant leadership as I serve 48,000 people in the city in which I was born and in the neighborhood where I currently reside in the house that I was born in. Other things that prepared me for this leadership role is that I've held leadership position at the highest pinnacle in a number of DSO organizations. As I mentioned earlier, I was president of Beta Nu chapter. I've been president of our local graduate chapter here in Fort Pierce, Eta Kappa Lambda. I also currently serve as the president of our 501c3 organization, the Frozen Pharaoh Foundation. I'm also a member of the Indian River Foundation. So a number of roles and things that I've held in corporate, inside the national organization, and as a student leader has prepared me to take the helm for the 19th president of the National Alumni Association. And it's with that that I offer myself to serve this Rattler Nation and move us forward with a forward momentum of advocacy, inclusion, and growth under the umbrella of One FAMU.
Thank you. Now is the time we all have been waiting for, the time when we can hear what it is that really distinguishes each candidate from another. So this is our question portion. Candidates will be limited to answers not to exceed 1 minute. Candidates may decline to answer a question if they choose. If a candidate wishes to follow up, they may do so for 1 minute at my discretion. Question number 1. And question number 1, the order will be candidate Johnson, candidate Shaw, candidate Pinkert, and candidate Smith. Okay. I will repeat that again. Candidate Johnson, Candidate Shaw, Candidate Pinkert, and Candidate Smith. Here's the question. Do the right thing in the right way, and everything will fall into place. To draw a diverse alumni base, the NAA must determine how to best align its mission and the benefits it offers. In order to ensure that our membership base continues to grow, what are some approaches that you think should be explored? Candidate Johnson.
Thank you for that question. Under my platform, inclusion, there is a feeling, there is an atmosphere, there's a culture that exists beyond those that are really active in the National Alumni Association that we must tap into. There's a feeling of exclusion. There's a feeling of non-transparency. There's a feeling of lack of trust. There's a feeling of just don't know how to get involved. As president of the National Alumni Association, I would take the charge to make sure the team is prepared for this and understands it, and that we have a platform that communicates to the Rattlers to make sure that everyone is included. We have an inclusive environment and inclusive culture, and we put people in the right opportunities to serve on various committees to help us bridge this gap. We must bridge the gap of those of us that are very active in the Alumni Association to the many that aren't. As I've stated earlier, I have a growth goal of obtaining 10,000 active members in the National Alumni Association. That's going to charge us to have a lot of engagements, and more importantly, charge us to listen and have listening platforms on a regional, on a state by state and national level to make sure we are meeting Rattlers where they are and engaging them to welcome them under the one FAMU umbrella, which is a part of my platform.
Thank you. Candidate Shaw, you have the same question.
Okay, thank you. What I would say we need to do, first of all and foremost, is that by me working as a president in Broward, and we have one of the largest counties there is, a lot of time we approach alumni and they're turned off. And a lot of people will say, well, they're just young and they're turned off. But one of the things that I would like to do, which is what we do in Broward, is a lot of times when a person doesn't feel like they're part of something, then they're not going to participate. And especially the younger alumni and also the middle-aged alumni, sometimes they feel like they're not wanted. So what we try to do is we try to reach out to them. We send them information. We invite them to our meetings. We invite them to our social gatherings. We invite them to go to the conferences with us. Sometimes we'll pay for them. So I think that we must meet those members where they are and try to find out what we can do as alum to go ahead and bring those alumni to the playing field so that they will know what the National Alumni Association is all about. Because right now, I think a lot of things that go out, they don't receive because they're not members. We need to have some type of communication going out to all alumni, invite them to the conferences, not just the ones who are financial. And those things like that, I think will bring us closer together.
Thank you. Candidate Pinkert, you now have the floor.
Thank you. I love this question. And so for me, one of the things that's big in bringing us together and doing the right thing, we have to meet people where they are, and we have to be present at student orientation. We need to make sure that the students that we are awarding money to, and the students that are there, let them know that we are there with them when they see us. And then as you begin to see them and interact with them, you begin to identify some of their talents. And with that, when you see their talents, I can identify different things to ask them to help them with. And with that, when you ask them to help you with something, then that kind of brings them in and gets them engaged. And once we get them in and they see how caring we are and how much fun that we have, then they want to get engaged. I've served as the co-chair for technology for the last 6 years. And we know the youth love technology, but we also know that our seniors may not love technology. For me, to help bridge that gap, I have spent hours with our older alums to help them learn the technology. And
30 seconds.
And so, and so then we have to communicate as well, just to meet them where they are, give them interesting topics, listen to what they have to say, receive the constructive criticism, and then implement. When you give us an idea, let's just not put it to the shelf. What are we going to actually do to move that idea ahead? But at the end of the day, building leaders, getting them involved, bringing them to the table, being present for the students and for our alumni.
Thank you. And Candidate Smith.
Thank you. It's time, which is my platform. It's time to increase communication and collaboration with our alum. Presently, there are over 10,000 graduates between 2004 and 2017, but our membership is showing only about 5,000 that are presently members, and that's not good. It's time to evaluate the NAA brand and develop new strategies for recruitment and retention of our members. What is more, our fundraising efforts directly correlate with the ability to get, keep, and grow our membership. We must adapt to this. Also, this would include the time to create a top performing pipeline for our students to come into the NAA with training, experience, and workshops to bring them closer to the NAA, to make them feel inclusive and have them have leadership services and leadership qualifications so that they can come in and they can lead the NAA.
Thank you.
Which fosters a mutual beneficial relationship between the NAA and our members.
Okay, thank you. Question number 2. The order is Candidate Pinkert, Candidate Johnson, Candidate Smith, and Candidate Shaw. And that was Candidate Pinkert, Candidate Johnson, Candidate Smith, and Candidate Shaw. The question: how do you plan to keep yourself and your fellow board members abreast of current trends and issues in the field of alumni relations? Candidate Pinkert.
Thank you for that question. And this comes into one of my platform items for the image and how we strengthen the image. We've all kind of said it tonight about communicating, but one of the things for me is working with the corresponding secretary to distribute information that pertains specifically to the student recruitment and scholarship process. When we send out like the FAMU news and reports, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly, but putting together information that we can share to the alums and post on social media so that our alums know what's going on. We can talk about it all day long, but it's very important that we put it in writing. There's a saying, if it's not written, it did not happen. And so for me, it's very important to document things and share that information that can easily be found, put it on social media, send it out on emails, and just communicate so they can keep up with what's going on and making sure that we're not just keeping that information to just our local chapters. If I know it, the entire nation should know what's going on, what dates are coming, not just my local chapter.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson, you have the floor.
I think I understand the question to be about how would you communicate to your internal team or external or both?
Internal.
Internal. So there's a very dynamic group that's growing inside the National Alumni Association that would, they have various ways of communication. Understanding that there needs to be an enhancement of our internal communication patterns so that those messages are received and that those assignments are understood. We also need to make sure that people have clear understanding of their roles and those roles that may be shifting and changing. I think we need to maximize our technology platforms to do that. There needs to be an internal communication using sources resources such as Google Calendar, so that we know what the expectations are when it comes to our timelines, our meetings. And so those are tools that I've used when I've managed teams before, small group communication patterns to make sure that the team is aware and that we utilize internal resources to make sure that key dates, key milestones, key goals are communicated to that internal team, and setting expectations and accountability are all followed up with that. From there, we will move to an external communication, which includes obviously Rattler Nation, as well as how we conduct our national NAA board meetings.
Thank you. Candidate Smith, you now have the floor.
Thank you. As I said before, it's time to increase communication and collaboration between our alumni and its members. We need to move forward with the National Alumni Association building, I said before, on the hard work of our predecessors. We must build our next chapter of bilateral communication, fortified with transparency, accountability, and outstanding customer service. We have to inspect what we expect. So if we're going to give information to our alum, it has to be transparent, it has to be truthful, and we have to expect that it will come forth and produce the items that we need to be the best NAA association in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Shaw, you now have the floor.
Hey, thank you. I do agree with some of the candidates on their information that was given as far as getting information out to our alum. One of the hardest things for us to do, what I've seen in the past, is getting the information out to everyone. Doing our executive boards, a lot of times we have our meetings, we put our meetings in executive board. And for myself, by me being over the recruitment committee, we always send out our information expecting our regional VPs to distribute the information, and most of the times they do not. So one of the things that I had said that when I'm really elected, that we will have to work on fixing that for the regional VPs. Because once we get the information, we get it directly from the university. As I said in my campaign act, we get information directly from the university. We have our meetings, they go out to the regional VPs and they sit there. So one of the things that I would like to see is that we have a wider communication between the committee chairs, the regional VPs, and the local chapter presidents in order to get the information out. And then once it's out there, they can distribute it to other sources that they have in their different regions, and also other sources that the NAA have as far as the YM.
Great. The next question is dear to a lot of people's hearts. So this order will be Candidate Shaw, Candidate Pinkert, Candidate Johnson, and Candidate Smith. Candidate Shaw, Candidate Pinkert, Candidate Johnson, and Candidate Smith. Question number 3. How do you plan to address the lack of accountability for entities within the NAA and on campus when repeated requests for information and our updates do not get responses? Candidate Shaw, you're up.
Okay, just to understand your question, they don't get responses from
either within the NAA or from entities on campus.
Okay, well, that's kind of puzzling because right now with the information that we have with the NAA, the communication, as I said earlier in my last information I gave out, was that the information has to come from the main source. And right now, the National Alumni Association is the main source. We get our information from the university. They pass it down to us, because keep in mind now that we're under the umbrella of the university, and we have to go what is said from the university comes to us. So the buck starts with us. If we can't get our information out to our constituents, to our presidents, to our regional VP, then there's a disconnect. And as I said in ACT, we have to connect our regional VPs, our presidents with the university. So when things come out from Augustus Mitchell, from Dr. Hudson, from the different departments on campus, they go to a source that they believe is going to distribute the information. So we just have to connect, collaborate together, have a better communication system between us so that our alumni can receive that information in a timely manner.
Thank you. Let me repeat the question. How do you plan to address the lack of accountability for entities within the NAA and or on campus when repeated requests for information and or updates do not get responses? Candidate Pinkert, you're up.
Thank you so much for that question. And so for this one, definitely we collaborate. But we all know that for the NAA, we pay for email accounts for all of the officers at nationals to use and their committee chairs. A lot of times, unfortunately, a lot of the board members and chairs do not use their NAA email account. And that is one way that we can kind of streamline communications to ensure that everyone is using their NAA account. That is the one they should be checking and all communication should come to. We should also be looking to look at the facts. When was the email sent? Was it sent on a holiday? Was it sent on a Saturday? Those things play into part as to the timeliness in which someone will communicate information. Did the information go to a personal email address that's outdated? And then we need to make sure that we have a backup, because at some point in time, we cannot kick the can down the road. We have to look at the facts, understand what happened, and then discuss it, determine what's the best course of action so that we can resolve the issue that has come up that needs to be dealt with. But we look at our bylaws as well. What do our bylaws say to speak to that? And if it's something not there, what's morally and ethically correct? But again, we can't kick the can down the road, and we must look at what the facts are and deal with them accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson, you have the floor.
Well, Ms. Davis, based on the question and how I understand it, it would appear to me that we would have a problem where communication is not being returned back to someone that's requesting that information. As a president of any organization, the buck stops with that person. And so taking full accountability as a leader of the organization, number one, we make sure we address where the fall off may be. Is it the correct email address? Are they corresponding, as Ms. Pinkert said, to the appropriate NAA email address? That will certainly cut down on maybe some of the errors. The second thing is that as president, I would certainly hope that it reach out to me to bring this to my attention, that these response from either department or committee has been non-responsive. It would be up to me as the leader of this organization to hold the committees, the chairs, the vice presidents on down the line responsible and accountable to that. And that needs to be understood and communicated. Let's be frank, this is a volunteer organization. We all have lives and we are passionate about Mother FAMU, but we also must have accountability when it comes to leadership. And that leadership must be comfortable holding people accountable. And sometimes it requires a conversation to understand maybe things are going on in that person's life. And we have to have that conversation. Maybe it's not the right time for that person to be serving at a university. We have to address whatever the issue is. We have to move on from there because we must be accountable. And if we set that standard, then that standard can be replicated across the university. As the president of the National Alumni Association, I'm responsible for holding the NAA accountable. Certainly, if the university is not being accountable and getting timely information, then that's a conversation we need to have with them.
And Candidate Smith, you now have the floor.
Thank you for that question. When I think about that question, I think about culture. It's the culture of the organization that has caused this to happen. And it's happening over and over and over again. And I'm sure a lot of the viewers out there can attest to this. It's happening. The process is going to be slow. It's going to be slow. It's never, ever a fast thing to change culture. We all know that. So therefore, we have to have a strategic plan in place, possibly an ad hoc committee. And this ad hoc committee will research and determine how best to handle this, because the university, the NAA, and everyone else involved has to work this through. They have to be coherent about what is happening. And we have to look at this that has been ingrained. As I said before, it's not going to be a fast process. So in order to do that, we have to work together. Collaboration, caring about people, and our be transparent, which is one of my suggestions in my platform. And I thank you.
All righty, we're going to shake things up a bit. So candidate Smith and candidate Johnson, sit back, get your popcorn, like President Clark asked, wet your whistle a little bit. This next question is for our candidates of second vice president. And the order will be candidate Pinkert and then candidate Shaw. Okay, again, that is candidate Pinkert and candidate Shaw. This question is only for them. Question number 4. If you had the power to change one thing during your first 90 days, what would it be? And how would you go about implementing that change? Candidate Pinkert.
Thank you for that question. If I had the power to change one thing in my first 90 days, it would be to show up for the students first at student orientation. That would be the first thing for me. We know that the students are part of our mission and why we are here. We want to make sure that the students have a better time on campus than we had when we were there. And then we want them to pay it forward. So with that, I would work with the university to ensure that we could show up for student orientation and they're moving in to help them get settled so they can see us there in the presence and establish those relationships. And from there, that would be the first thing to continue to foster that, working with student government to make sure that they know that we are here to help them. We've been where they are and we're here to help. From there, that's where I would start. Thank you.
Candidate Shaw, you have the same question. If you had the power to change one thing during your first 90 days, what would it be? And how would you go about implementing that change?
Well, I'm going to start out by saying the bylaws, the way it speaks about the second vice president, I would definitely address that issue. Based on the bylaws, it said that the second vice president would closely work with students on campus through the Student Government Association and the Student National Alumni Association to recruit students to the association for the purpose of developing better student relations. I think we need to change that information because the way it's stated is that the purpose of the second vice president is just to work with the students to make that relationship better. And most of our alumni feel like the Student National Alumni Association is supposed to miraculously graduate all these students to join the National Alumni Association. I think we need to clarify that because I think the Student National Alumni need to start at home. We need to get our students who are scholarship recipients and work with them with us so they can see the alumni at work. So when they get to the campus and they do their orientation, they know that the alumni is there for them. They give them scholarships. If they need something to go in their room, they know we are there. And then when they meet one of our student national alumni, they can say, oh, okay, you guys are working with my president. You're working with my advisor back home. So I think we need to change that information so that we can have a better handle on the students that's coming to FAMU and know what to expect when they get there. And let the alumni know what to expect of them, their role in this all.
All right, thank you. All right, we're coming back all together before we shake it up again. So this order is candidate Shaw, candidate Smith, candidate Pinkert, and candidate Johnson. Candidate Shaw, candidate Smith, candidate Pinkert, and candidate Johnson. Question 5. The NAA has strengthened its thoughtful work and commitment to the values of cultural diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. But the association needs more platforms for courageous conversations aimed at building community, respect, and trust among all constituents, and for celebrating and appreciating all that a diverse environment has to offer. How do you plan to interact with alumni and students? And to further strengthen and build relationships, what opportunities and challenges does establishing positive public relations present? Again, the question is, how do you plan to interact with alumni and students? And what opportunities and challenges does establishing positive public relations present? Candidate Shaw.
Okay, interact with students. Are you referring to the students on campus or the students in our local chapters?
It doesn't matter, just alumni and students. So students in your chapter, that means they would have graduated.
Correct.
Are
Okay.
incoming
incoming class students.
Yeah. So
okay.
you can speak to the to recruitment if you would like, but just
Okay.
the interaction of alumni and students.
Okay, as I said earlier with my platform, I think we really need to connect the students with the alumni. As far as just connecting them with the students on campus, I really think it should start at home. I think alumni, we all are alum and we all are recruiters. We all have students in our chapters. We have students in our churches. We have students in our schools. And by us seeing all of these students in the schools and everything, it's our opportunity to interact with them, whether they're white, Black, Asian, whatever, we should interact with them. A couple of schools here in Broward County, we have one school who gives us nothing but the Hispanic students, and they're outdoing and outperforming some of our African-American students. So I would say that I think that the challenges are for us to open our minds up to different avenues of being with these students and counseling these students. And sometimes it doesn't matter who you are. You could be someone who works in a cafeteria who has a good word for a student, or you could be someone who's the president of the university. I think everyone should take a part in talking with our students and showing them the good things that could be happening to them at FAMU.
Candidate Smith.
Thank you. Wow, could you read that again for me?
How do you plan to interact with alumni and students? And what opportunities and challenges does establishing positive public relations present?
Okay. Thank you. It's time, all the Rattlers, to refresh, as I said before, and this is in my eye, it's time to refresh our brand, which is the I in my time. And in addition to refreshing our brand, we have to reestablish ourselves as an inclusive organization. We have to prioritize and work with our alum and our students, as mentioned earlier, to make them feel like they are wanted and appreciated. As I said earlier in my time, we have to make them feel like they can celebrate. We don't want to give them a task that they will fail in. They will never come back. So think of it like this: get them, keep them, and we all will grow. We will grow in the Excellence with Caring National Alumni Association, biggest and the best one. We have to keep them by distracting away from the things that we care the most about, and we're trying to teach them. Thank you.
Candidate Pinkert.
Thank you for that question. So this talks to the A, alumni, I, image, R, recruitment. And so we know the university has been doing more to support diverse cultures. And it's very important for the NAA that we do the same thing. We have a lot of talented individuals that are out there, and we have to make them feel welcome and that their ideas are valuable. And so it starts from the top down, that we establish a culture that everyone is valuable, everyone's ideas are, should be heard. And so when we do that, that's a start. We also know that with the NAA, we have started doing a lot of affinity chapters. And so we have the Pearls on the Hill, we have engineering. So that's something also for us to consider looking into, having more diverse affinity chapters that speak to various groups, so that, again, individuals feel their inclusiveness, and that, because at the end of the day, we're all rattlers. At the end of the day, we all bleed orange and green. So for me, that's very important, and just being respectful. But again, from the top down, making sure that from the top down is cascaded. And then when we hear of situations where people are not being supportive, we need to address that, because that's not the culture that we want. Thank you.
And Candidate Johnson.
So under my platform, I mentioned the word inclusion. The third bullet point there is implementing small forums, listening sessions, inclusion sessions. Those are some of the things that I would do immediately to begin to not only take the pulse of the students on the campus, working with the Student Government Association to understand the needs of our future alumni, but also to go out and embark upon that amongst the 80,000 plus graduates that we have out there. We must engage that audience for those that are active and those that aren't active, to make sure that their voices are being heard and that their voices are being understood, and that their voices are finding their way underneath the one FAMU umbrella. That's the key paramount to my platform, is one FAMU. And there are many people who need to understand how to become active with the Alumni Association. What are the benefits? And more importantly, we need to recognize their talents and gifts. So inclusion is a big part of that when it comes to my particular platform. Also, understanding that from a regional level and working with the regional VPs to have outreach campaigns, to not only talk to their internal teams, but those people in the area that we can reach out to that are rattlers that haven't been talked to in some time. We must have an inclusive culture to grow this organization. The other aspect of having any challenges, I don't. This is simply what I do each and every day as an elected official. I represent a diverse community today. I have Creole speaking, I have Spanish speaking, I have African Americans, and I have whites. I have to make sure my message is heard and understood in all of those particular platforms. And it's something that comes relatively natural for me to be able to do that in a diverse culture that Florida A&M presents.
Thank you. All righty. Candidate Shaw and Candidate Pinkert, it's now time for you to sit back and get your popcorn and wet your whistle, because the next 3 questions will be for the candidates for the office of president, Candidate Smith and Candidate Johnson. So we will go back and forth with these questions. So the first order for question 6 will be Candidate Smith and then Candidate Johnson. And then we will flip it for question 7. Question 6. The president is expected to lead the association in reinforcing what makes the NAA distinctive and to build on the association's history as a unique model of alumni relations that is open-minded, minimally prescriptive, customized, and evolutionary. In light of today's intense economic, public health, and social issues, what do you believe should be your highest priorities? Again, in light of today's intense economic, public health, and social issues, what do you believe should be your highest priorities as we move the association forward? Candidate Smith.
Thank you for that question. The highest priority in moving our alumni or association forward in those perspectives, in lieu of everything that's happened, I would first say it would be safety of our alum. We know that the pandemic has come, and our president, university-wise, held off on a lot of things that we did together, but our safety would be first, keeping us healthy, and secondly, remembering how it helps us as individuals to band together again, collaborate with each other, and help each other in whatever way we can. Thank you.
All righty. Candidate Johnson, you now have the floor.
I think the first thing we must do, and I will do, is make sure that the benefit and value of being a member of the National Alumni Association is, number one, validated and then communicated. I think we need to internally look at all of our benefits of National Alumni Association and make sure that's in tune with the actual alumni that's out here. I think there's a disconnect. In fact, I know it's a disconnect. As I talk to people that are not active in the National Alumni Association, the first question they ask is, why should I belong to the National Alumni Association? And quite frankly, we don't have a very good answer for that right now. We need to bolster that up to make sure when we're asking people to be part of the National Alumni Association, if we're going to move this organization forward, we must be very responsive, very upfront, and very value added for bringing people to and attracting them to the National Alumni Association. That's mission critical, number one. If we're going to grow and have an inclusive environment, that we're listening and we're tailoring our National Alumni Association to attract rattlers.
All righty. So Candidate Johnson, this one will be on you. And then we will take Candidate Smith. This is question number 7. The NAA will benefit from a president skilled at maximizing performance by leveraging and engaging its rich mosaic of human, intellectual, financial, and physical resources. A fundamental responsibility for our next president is to run a complex association to manage people and resources effectively in a resource-limited environment. But you still have to meet your strategic goals. So what is your communication style? And what would be your approach to building a team and infrastructure that would enable both you and the NAA to succeed. The question, what is your communication style and what will be your approach to building a team and infrastructure that would enable both you and the NAA to succeed? Candidate Johnson.
Thank you. So my communication style and leadership style, and I'm a certified DISC coach. I own a consulting practice. I teach leadership. I've been on that campus instilling leadership practices. And so my leadership style is one that I understand human behavior. I understand how to utilize human behavior and communicate by that. And we all basically have 4 quadrants of communication. And with my understanding of that and what I practice and implement in organizations, I would call what I am is a high influential type person. My leadership style is through influence. It's also through recognition. It's also through accountability. The ability to recognize what the others are that you're leading is the most important part of leadership that I possess. It's because of my training. It's because of my leadership. It's because of the roles that I've held in leadership in corporate America that I would bring to this organization and begin to implement these policies, these practices, this skill and competency that I've developed over my 25+ corporate career. As I mentioned, my consulting practice and what I do is leadership training. I certainly understand how to meet people and communicate to them on how they want to be communicated to. And that's the most important thing that I would bring to the organization. And that would be my leadership style moving the NAA forward. You're right, we have limited resources. No one's getting paid here. We must find the people that want to be a part of this organization and put them in opportunities for success. And that's what I feel is a key role also of the National Alumni Association president.
Thank you. Candidate Smith, what is your communication style and what would be your approach to building a team and infrastructure that would enable both you and the NAA to succeed?
Thank you. My communication style, believe it or not, is administrative assertive. Assertive communicator, but excellence in caring. Women tend to lead that way. We are a little bit more compassionate than men when we're coming to lead. And we also see the big picture. Okay, I set high expectations. Okay, and in working together with those high expectations, we must inspect, like I said before or said earlier, and what we expect. So as a leader, I would look at those components and being an assertive communicator, but remembering excellence in caring, setting high expectations and expecting them to be met through collaboration, again, transparency, integrity, and authenticity and excellence. Thank you.
All righty. This order, we're going to flip it again, will be Candidate Smith, then Candidate Johnson. Question 8. The president must have the time, energy, and financial resources to attend and support all of the many functions, events, and meetings of the university, legislature, board of governors, the regions, and the chapters, as well as assisting the university with lobbying at all levels for increased funds. Are you able to do this for the NAA? So talk about your experience with lawmakers and how would you build relationships on both sides to enhance the NAA's partnership with key external stakeholders. The question is about the time, energy, and financial resources to be able to be at all things related to FAMU. So the first part of the question was, are you able to do this? Then to talk about your experience with lawmakers and how you would build relationships to enhance the NAA's partnership with key external stakeholders. Candidate Smith, you're on.
Thank you. That includes another component of my platform, which is E, which is expand and increase efforts to grow ethnic minority representation and participation in the government at local, state, and national level. We as alum in working with the Governmental Relation Committee, I have learned a lot. I have traveled to Tallahassee with Day at the Capitol several years, and I have spoken to lawmakers, and I have worked with lawmakers here in Broward County in campaigning. It is imperative that we continue to champion an inclusion and equity of minority voices in political affairs, and we must relentlessly pursue representation on the Board of Trustees, evolving our university. So in working with political parties, it's common, I've done it, and also with the time and the funds, it has not been a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson.
Yes, ma'am. So the first answer is yes, I do have the time, I do have the energy. More importantly, I have the skill and competency that I have been building upon since I've entered the public office. I'm involved with a group right now called the Florida Black Caucus for Local Elected Officials, of which there are a number of rattlers that I've encountered at some of our local events where we've come together as elected officials. That's an immediate group that we need to tap into. We need to bring them under the umbrella of One FAMU. Many of them are not active right now, actual alums of this university. That question needs to be asked and posed, and my platform of advocacy talks exactly to that. As a local elected official, I not only have worked with obviously the Black Caucus, but I've had to reach across the aisle to form partnerships. This year, we were very successful in Fort Pierce in bringing home close to $1 million when it comes to grant funding for local projects here. I could not have gotten that done without having the relationships with key stakeholders of both parties, both Republican and Democrat. And for us to advocate for FAMU, we're going to need some of those relationships. Those are things that I would bring immediately to the table with existing relationship with state legislators that are in some of the seats of power and leadership when it comes to state legislature. And so it's something that I'm very passionate about and something that we need to advocate more for. We need more alum to run for municipal and local elected opportunities. And we need to, through this National Alumni Association, support them and encourage them to be a part of that. And as the NAA president, that will be one of the milestones and key elements of my administration, is to make sure we're building that and rattlers are taking part in that type of consensus building for Fordham University.
Thank you. All righty. Candidate Smith and Candidate Johnson, you sit back for a minute. Okay. So now we're going back to our candidates for second VP. So Candidate Shaw, you will be up first, and then we will have Candidate Pinkert. So this is question number 9. As you work closely with students on campus, what can you do to develop better student-alumni relations? As you work closely with students on campus, Candidate Shaw, what can you do to develop better student-alumni relations?
Okay, thank you for that question. I'm glad you asked that question. One of the things that I would just like to say, when I first was elected as the second VP, the students on campus, especially the Student National Alumni Association, was non-existent. There was no Student Alumni Association, hadn't been one for about 5 or 6 years, from my understanding. So when I came in, I did look at their bylaws. The new president and advisor, we went through the bylaws, and we noticed a lot of things in there. At one time, they were flourishing with the Student Government Association. The SGA was everywhere. They was targeting students in the SGA who were seniors and getting them to pay their dues before they graduate. It was just awesome. So I would say that we need to get that back into the Student National Alumni Association. The pandemic slowed us down, but if you look at it now where we are further now than where we were when we first got started. Working with Dr. Hudson, we have reestablished the Student National Alumni Association, and I'm looking forward to going on campus, sitting down, talking with the president and the advisor. Maybe the advisor can give a class, their first meeting. Maybe they can give a class from a prominent alumni to come in and talk to the students about the National Alumni Association. There is just unlimited things that we could do to try to bring that fire back to the Student National Alumni Association in conjunction with the Student Government Association.
All righty, Candidate Pinkert.
Thank you for that question. I love this one as well. So this one kind of goes to the I image in my platform and strengthening the image of the NAA. And so similar to what Mrs. Shaw was saying, definitely we want to connect with the students more. But for me, I think it's important for us to utilize the students. We have a lot of things like the website and technology. A lot of these students have that as their major. And so working with the Career Center and the colleges so that we can maybe have some of the students do some things within the association and get credit for that. And then we want to I would drive engagements with SGA at the NAA activities, at the home football, games outside of homecoming, spring preview and the commencement. Then also we think about the FAMU Connection. The FAMU Connection is our biggest recruiting tool. Working with them, getting to know them. When you spend time with them at these games and with the connection is there, you begin to foster those relationships. I remember with the Miami game last year, which I helped do with the bus for our seniors and individuals, there was a moment where the latest dance moves, the FAMU court got a lot of us older alums up, and they were teaching us the fun new dance moves. Those fun times begin to help build those relationships. As past President Mitchell used to always says, the first part of fundraising is friend raising. So for me, the first part in getting our student alumni engaged is having fun with them and being there for them. Thank you.
All righty, we're gonna come together for this last question. And the order would be Candidate Pinkert, Candidate Shaw, Candidate Johnson, and then Candidate Smith. Candidate Pinkert, Candidate Shaw, Candidate Johnson, and Candidate Smith. This is our last question for this portion. While the National Alumni Association is in a financially strong position in terms of funding to support growth, the president serves as the association's lead fundraiser and will need to infuse energy and vision into the case for support and identify potential partnerships that will bring new supporters and revenue sources, and also ramp up alumni engagement. What do you see as the NAA's greatest potential for success in friend raising or fundraising? Again, what do you see as the NAA's greatest potential for success in friend raising? Candidate Pinkert.
Thank you so much for that question. Oh, these are really good questions. And so this is kind of like the C for me in the collaborating with the fundraising committee to help secure scholarship dollars. That's what moves us. But for me, the partnerships, it's the part of asking the question. We have a lot of talented and high power alumni out there. I mean, the gates are just so wide. We have to ask the question. Similar, I think back to when Sika did the 10 for 10 campaign years ago, how beneficial that was in doing the ask. You have to ask the question. I've actually already been working on a few letters that I would like to do as second VP to go out there and help us solicit corporate dollars, partnerships, people who have these great careers that we could benefit their expertise with the NAA as a volunteer. So for me, that is what I see our greatest potential is utilizing the alumni that we have within the association, and also talking with the Office of Alumni Affairs as we're building up that directory. Who are our alumni? Ask the question. Many times we do not get involved. We do not do things because no one asks. So we have to ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Shaw, what do you see as the NAA's greatest potential for success in fundraising?
What I would say to answer that question is simple. Don't let alum who's listening tonight, don't let anyone fool you that we are not doing well. Our students, we have more students enrolled this fall semester than any other. It could be the highest in the last 3 years. The GPAs are 4.0 and the SAT scores are just off the chart. So I think that once we let our stakeholders know that these students are awesome, they're raising the money, but 73% of the students who choose not to come to FAMU is based on no funding. That's the major reason. So as alum, we must let them know this. We cannot lose these students. We have to go out and solicit ourselves, let them know these students are off the chain with the SAT scores, they're coming to FAMU, but unfortunately, some of them does not have the financial obligations to complete their 4 years. So I think once we start highlighting our students to some of our alum to come on board and support us with these students, start the SOS, give it a purpose. I think that's what we need to do. That's the drive that we need is our students. And we need to let our students be out there, out front, showing what they're doing at FAMU every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Johnson, what do you see as the NAA's greatest potential for success in fundraising?
It's a dual path. The greatest potential we have right now is the untapped corporate opportunities that are out there. We're coming off the George Floyd era of fundraising, and we must get out there and we must engage our alumni that are in the C-suites, many of which are my classmates. A number of them have had great success that can introduce us to that. By utilizing that access, we will then be able to bring in the corporate partners to shore up some of our key milestone events. For instance, homecoming, the first game at Jackson State, the Southern University game, and of course the big game in Orlando. That must be the partnership that helps us to showcase for our alumni members so that when they come, they have a true destination experience with the National Alumni Association, which then drives the actual number to the National Alumni Association to over 10,000. When we get to over 10,000 active members, we triple our budget. That triples the budget for SOS, that triples our budget for infrastructure and technology platforms that we will need to continue to build upon that success of bringing in more and more people to the National Alumni Association. The more members you bring in, the larger footprint and voice you have, the more monies you'll have to fund programs like SOS. So it's a dual approach. The easiest way right now is for us to get out there and engage our corporate partners to have them help us engage our alumni base at some of these key milestone opportunities that I mentioned earlier.
Thank you. And Candidate Smith, what do you see as the NAA's greatest potential for success in fundraising?
Well, fundraising, yes, I'm going to speak on that, but fundraising, they're already friends. They're giving, so they're friends. I think we have to advocate the NAA to bring in funds, and we have to leverage our resources. We have in the Alumni Association a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of the mind to give. We just have to leverage it and we have to use it. But we have to also engage them, and engaging them keeps them growing and it keeps them coming back. They're not inactive and they will give. The next one is corporate sponsors. We must get more corporate sponsors. That is what we need to push us to where we need to go. Thank you.
No, thank you. Go ahead. You want to follow up, Candidate Pinkert? You have a follow-up. Go ahead.
Thank you for that so much. One thing also I thought about was that the reporting. A lot of times we give money and we ask for money, but we really do not, sometimes we may not show always to the best of our ability. That's an area we've done it, but we can always improve on showing where the money is going. And so that's going to be also very important to our alumni. I know a lot of times we've given money and we say, well, where did the money go? So in addition to asking for the money, is also being able to be transparent in our reporting to show where the money is going, and working with the office of the foundation office to ensure that things are being reported and we can show for it. Corporations love to see those numbers, where are our alumni give rates. So all of that documentation is very important as well. Thank you for allowing me to rebuttal.
Oh, no problem. The telling the story is very important. As we do it in church with testimonials, we need to have that same mindset. Instead of passing around the hat, we're telling our testimonial of how you got where you are. So telling the story is very important as our journey as a Rattler to now an alum. Now we will go to our next portion of this candidates forum, and that's our closing statements. So we're going to go in the reverse order of our opening statements and just bring it on home for us. Any last thoughts, anything else you want to share to let people know why they should vote for you as a candidate for president or a candidate for second vice president? We will begin with candidate Smith. You have the floor.
Okay, I am Mary Smith and I'm running for president of the FAMUNAA Association. I have not only participated, but I have been a leader both on the local level and on the national level. One can see a leader as someone who is impactful, who's able to make decisions, and that would be my job, but on a larger scale. As I said before, I have proven leadership with results, and know being your next FAMUNAA president will yield even more results. So I ask you to consider me. I am the one of those who will enact change. Yes, just as our vice president and our recently nominated judge, I will be one of those women who will enact change. I'm ready to implement new changes. I'm transparent, honest, motivated to work, and I will work around the clock for you and the university and the alumni. Vote for me, Mary Smith, your next 2022 president. Thank you.
And thank you. Candidate Shaw, you now have the floor.
Hey, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. And I would like to thank our alumni for tuning in to listen to our different views on why we feel like we should be the next candidate to hold either the presidency or the second vice president. I can actually say that for the last 3 years, I've enjoyed being the second vice president. I didn't come overnight. I came from 10 years experience from working with one of the largest school boards in the country, from training students and forming an ambassadors program that's second to none. And right now it's proven because Broward County has the most number of students for the last couple of years coming to FAMU than any other city in the National Alumni Association. So I have fun with the kids. We came to preview. We had fun with the kids, and I can see that their pain when they don't make FAMU. Their application is rejected, and we have to tell them we have to reroute you and try to get into a junior college. So I would like for you to vote for me to continue my work with Florida Agricultural Mechanical University National Alumni Association, and my focus is on student recruitment. And as I said before, I will work for you. I would work for so you can see the transparency in what I'm doing. And I also would like to tell everyone on here tonight that we're going to go forward, even if it's something that we're not looking forward to, but I'll be there for you. So I ask you to vote for me. I'm the change that you need and the voice that you deserve. Thank you.
Candidate Pinkert.
All right. Well, thank you again for your time this evening. I believe leadership begins with the willingness to serve beyond the campaign period. There's no I in team. We need to do the committee work at the committee level, share information timely to the intended recipients, and always be a team player. I've worn a lot of hats in the NAA since I've graduated in 1996. And currently as Southern Region VP, we have had an outstanding 6 years. Again, I started as Region VP with about a dozen emails and a bank check. And look at where the region has grown in these 6 years. So I know that I can do a lot. I've been with IBM for 25 years. Operations leadership, that is what I do with a diverse culture. I'm responsible for Latin America and Canada. It gets pretty diverse from there. It's important that we vote for individuals in office that can get the job done. It's going to show up, make the tough decisions to advance the association, uphold our mission, communicate effectively, document and go beyond what's asked of them, inspiring our next leaders and building relationships while we tell our story. I encourage everyone to do their research on the facts because actions speak louder than words. Then vote for who you feel as though will best serve and represent our association as alumni, because every vote makes a difference. I'm Yolanda Pinkert. I humbly ask for your support and your vote to serve as your next second vice president as we continue carrying the torch forward. We'll collaborate, alumni, relationships, recruitment, year-round, image, navigate goals. Stay safe and keep striking, Rattlers.
Thank you. And before we hear from candidate Johnson, there have been some recent allegations directed at Curtis Johnson, which I'm going to give him the time to address before he gives his opening statement.
Yes.
So candidate Johnson,
Yes.
please let the viewers know what is going on and why you are a candidate for president of this organization. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Davies, and thank you for this opportunity. I've been made aware that my life as a public servant has been shared with many of the National Alumni Association. And what I want to share with you is that I am an elected official. I signed up for that duty to represent my community, which I live in. I am passionate about Fort Pierce. I was born and raised here. I live in a house that my mother and father raised me in the middle of my district. There are times when you're an elected official that you have to make tough decisions, but I will assure you that the decisions that I made as an elected official are rooted in not only the law, but in facts and in truth. When you become an elected official, your life is an open book, and I welcome that. I'm a servant leader to the people of my community who for many years were not served. I unseated a candidate that sat in this seat for 20 years and did not engage or correspond with the community. My actions have come in and I have not only brought resources to my community, but I am serving and communicating with my community. And as a result, some people, a very few amount of people, do not like that type of action. Truth hurts. Data and facts hurt. And sometimes the old tactics of scare tactics are used within our own community against our own people. I'm in a diverse community here that I serve: Black, white, Latino, Haitian. I understand what servant leadership is. And so, fellow Rattlers, I want you to know that the passion that I have for my community is the same passion that I'll bring to the National Alumni Association. I'm vying to be your 19th National Alumni Association president. My platform simply is rooted under One FAMU. Underneath the umbrella of One FAMU, many can belong and will belong underneath that umbrella of advocacy, inclusion, and growth. We must advocate for the university like none other. We must have an inclusive culture like none other. And we must grow to 10,000 people active inside our National Alumni Association. And that's what I'm asking for: your vote, your support to be your National Alumni Association president, to manifest this. Rattlers, tomorrow starts the voting process. We have until the 25th. I'm Curtis Johnson, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you for your time. Let's strike, Rattlers.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hopefully, family, you have gained additional insight to choosing the right candidate at this time to lead our National Alumni Association. This concludes our moderated portion of our final candidate forum for this election season. We have been live streaming on YouTube, but it will also be available for you to go back to view on all of the NAA official social media sites. So now I'm going to turn it over to our president, Colonel Clark, and he will give us our closing remarks. Thank you again for your time and attention.
Okay. Thank you so much, Joy, and thank you to the nominating committee for a job well done. Thank you to the candidates. You guys knocked it out of the park tonight, and I'm certainly proud of what you've done to display the effective leadership that's inside of our National Alumni Association. Tomorrow morning, ballots start to come out. Please check your emails. Okay, please check your emails. Balloting would end on the 25th of May. Okay, 25th of May. And shortly thereafter, we will announce the winners. So if you didn't get enough tonight, please engage these candidates and learn a little bit more about their platforms. All of them are passionate about a leading this association. And so I ask you to give them a chance and engage them. Again, thank you so much for all you do. Thank you to the election committee led by Carmen Cummings and her team for running an outstanding election. And we look forward to having a passionate runoff here over the next 15 days. So without further ado, thanks for all you do, and go Rattlers. We'll see you soon. Good night.